My mom sent a scathing message to the family group chat. "Let him fester alone on his birthday. He's pathetic." I responded coldly, "Then survive without my help," as I blocked their accounts, halted the mortgage payments, and severed every connection. My name's Ethan, and I'm 31. This unfolded just a few months ago, but the wound still feels raw, like it happened yesterday. When someone wounds you that deeply, time doesn't heal it. The pain lingers. Growing up, I was the one who made sure gifts were wrapped, travel plans were confirmed, and bills were covered when someone came up short. Maybe it was because I was the eldest, or maybe it was just who I was. Either way, it became expected, and I didn't mind. At least not at first. I loved seeing my family happy. I enjoyed being the one they could count on. But over time, I realized being dependable didn't earn me respect. It made me a doormat. My 31st birthday was approaching. Not a milestone, but it mattered to me. It felt like a quiet marker before the chaos of my 30s. That year had been brutal. I'd been laid off, scraping by with freelance gigs, and even covering my parents' house payments when my dad's work hours were slashed. All I wanted was one night to just be Ethan. Not the fixer, not the safety net, just me. So I planned something simple, nothing extravagant. I booked a cozy private room at a small Mexican restaurant I loved. I paid the deposit myself, picked a set menu to keep costs down, and went the extra mile. I bought thoughtful gifts for everyone, small tokens that meant something personal, like a custom baseball cap for my brother Jake because we used to play catch as kids, a locket for my mom resembling one she'd lost years ago, and a vintage comic book for my dad, tied to the ones he read to me as a child. I wanted the night to feel special, a way to say thank you. I sent invitations a month in advance, group texts, calendar reminders. I followed up a week before to confirm times and locations. Everyone responded with emojis, excited texts, and promises to be there. In hindsight, I should have seen the red flags. The day came and I was nervous but hopeful. I arrived at the restaurant early, helping the staff arrange the gifts at each place setting, double-checking everything. The manager grinned and said, "Your family's fortunate to have you." I chuckled, feeling a flicker of optimism. I told myself this time might be different. Maybe they'd show up for me. 7 o'clock came. I checked my phone. No texts, no missed calls. I figured they were running late. My family's never on time. By 7:30, no one had shown. I made small talk with the waiter about traffic. By 8 o'clock, a pit formed in my gut. I stared at the empty seats, the untouched gifts, the pristine plates. At 8:15, the manager approached softly and said, "Sir, would you like to order? The kitchen's closing soon." I nodded, thanked her quietly, and hid my humiliation. I gathered the gifts, left a generous tip for the staff, and walked into the chilly night. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the dashboard. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat, numb, until my phone pinged. For a moment, I thought it might be them. An apology, an explanation, an emergency. Instead, it was worse. Jake had posted photos. Him, my parents, some cousins, all grinning at an arcade across town. The caption read, "Family fun night." No mention of my birthday, no hint, no excuse. Just nothing. As if I didn't exist. My stomach churned so hard I thought I'd be sick. I scrolled through the images, my mind blank. There was Jake, laughing with a claw machine, arm around our cousin Matt. My mom was beaming, holding a stack of arcade tickets. My dad, flushed and cheerful, stood by the prize counter. As if they hadn't promised to be at my dinner. As if they hadn't confirmed they'd show up, hadn't acted like the night mattered. I sat there, the phone's glow reflecting off the windshield. Then, almost mechanically, I started piecing it together. All the times I'd paid their utility bills. How often I'd bailed Jake out when he was broke. The countless drives to help with errands, repairs, or last-minute favors. And how fast they forgot me when I wasn't useful. I didn't shout. I didn't smash the phone. I didn't send a long, pleading text asking why. Instead, I opened my banking app. I shifted funds, stopped automatic payments, and canceled transfers. When everything was done, I opened the family group chat. I stared at the screen, then typed, "Good luck keeping the lights on without me." I hit send. I watched as each name marked the message as read. Then I locked my phone and drove home in silence. The next morning, the replies flooded in. At first, they were dismissive. Jake sent a string of laughing emojis. My mom called it a minor mix-up and asked if I was still mad. My dad sent a photo of his arcade prize, a cheap plastic trophy, with the caption, "Big winner," like nothing had happened. But by noon, their tone shifted. "Ethan, can we talk?" "Turn the payments back on, please." "It was just a mistake, right?" "Hey, the mortgage didn't clear. What's going on?" The messages piled up. Pleading, fake apologies, more panic than sincerity. My phone buzzed relentlessly, vibrating on the table like it was alive. I didn't respond. I didn't open them. I just sat, sipping coffee, watching the first snow dust the ground outside. I didn't feel triumphant or smug. I felt empty, utterly drained. And deep down, a quiet voice whispered, maybe I don't have to keep sacrificing myself to keep them comfortable. But that wasn't the end. When you stop being everyone's crutch, they don't just panic, they unravel. By the next morning, my mom called at 9 a.m. I didn't pick up. My dad tried next, ignored. Then Jake, then Matt, then my aunt. One after another like a barrage trying to break through. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty for ignoring them. I felt calm. Each unanswered call reminded me of the emptiness they'd left me with the night before. By midday, the group chat exploded. Screenshots of overdrawn accounts, late notices, mortgage warnings. My dad's car payment bounced. My mom's electricity bill was flagged. Jake got humiliated when his card was declined at a tech store. It was like watching a chain reaction, one domino toppling the next. At 2 p.m., my mom sent a message that might have been funny if I weren't so numb. "Ethan, this is childish. Stop overreacting. Families move on." Move on? From ditching my birthday, leaving me alone while they partied like I didn't matter? I didn't reply. I muted the chat. The truth was, they didn't grasp how deep this went. Over the years, out of convenience and, frankly, bad judgment, I'd woven myself into their financial lives. I was the co-signer on my parents' mortgage because my credit was better. I backed Jake's car loan after his startup tanked. I set up auto payments for small things. My mom's cell plan, my dad's streaming services, their Wi-Fi, because they kept missing deadlines and racking up fees. They didn't realize those payments came from my account. They were like tenants in a house held up by invisible supports. They only noticed when the supports were gone. The next morning, I started getting emails from companies, cancellation notices, overdue alerts. I sat with my coffee, deleting each one as it arrived. By day 3, the voicemails turned desperate. No more jokes or guilt trips. Now or system. I understand you want a rewritten version of the provided story with the same length, structure, and essence, but with different words to avoid copyright issues. I've provided a version that maintains the narrative, tone, and details while changing the phrasing. Below is the continuation of the rewritten story, ensuring it matches the original length and structure while avoiding direct replication of the original text. More whining about family unity. Now it was raw fear. "Ethan, please just call back. We didn't mean to break your heart, son. Your mom's a wreck. She can't sleep. Can't you let this go? We're family, man. Look, we messed up, but don't do this. The house could be gone if those payments stop. Please, Ethan, please." For the first time, it sank in. A truth I'd buried for years. They didn't love me. They loved what I provided. They loved the security of knowing I'd clean up their messes. They loved the problems I erased, the ones they didn't even try to solve. I wasn't a son, a brother, or a cousin. I was a lifeline, and now they were sinking without one. By the end of the week, my aunt, the one who always played mediator, sent me a long, rambling text about how holding grudges poisons you and how real families stick together through hard times. She ended it with, "You're hurting everyone over one small oversight. Time to act like an adult, Ethan." One small oversight? Is that what they call planning a whole birthday dinner, paying for it, getting excited like a fool, only to sit alone for hours while your family laughed, played games, and acted like you were invisible? That's not a minor slip. That's not trivial. And something in me, worn thin over years, finally snapped. I realized they'd never truly apologize. They'd only offer deflections, guilt trips, or pleas disguised as love or family loyalty. I didn't respond. I stayed silent. That Friday night, I went out alone for the first time in ages. I wandered into a small record shop, bought a new vinyl, grabbed a coffee from a nearby cafe, and sat on a park bench listening to music under the streetlights. It wasn't grand, it wasn't loud, but it was peaceful. For once, I wasn't checking my phone. I wasn't stressing about who needed what or which bill I had to pay. I was just me. Meanwhile, back at my parents' house, things were crumbling. The mortgage company called, demanding the overdue payment. My dad tried to talk his way out of it, but when they saw the auto payments had stopped, they didn't budge. Jake's car was repossessed right from the driveway, in full view of the neighbors. My mom's utilities were slated for disconnection Monday morning if no payment came. And worst of all, they hadn't told the extended family what was happening. Too proud. Too ashamed. So from the outside, everything seemed normal. Until it wasn't. Saturday morning, I got a text from my cousin Sarah, one of the few family members I genuinely cared for. She wasn't at the arcade fiasco, but she'd heard something was wrong. "Hey, Ethan. I don't know the full story, but I'm here if you need me. You didn't deserve whatever they pulled." That message almost cracked me. Nearly. But I knew I had to keep moving forward, because what came next? Things were about to get much uglier for them. Sunday morning, I woke to a pounding on my door. Not a text, not a call, a real insistent knock. I almost stayed in bed, tempted to let whoever it was keep hammering until they gave up. But curiosity won. I peeked through the blinds. It was my dad. He didn't look angry, he looked broken. Shoulders slumped, hands buried in the pockets of a worn-out jacket. He shifted nervously like a kid caught breaking curfew. I didn't rush to open the door. I let him wait. Just like I'd waited alone at that restaurant, surrounded by a table set for people who never came. Finally, I cracked the door, just enough to see his face without inviting him in. "Ethan," he said, voice trembling. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the frame. "Talk about what?" He flinched but managed a faint smile. "About the family. About fixing this." I stared at him. This was the man who didn't even send a happy birthday text. Now here he was, on my doorstep. Because the money was gone, the mortgage company was circling, and his carefully propped up world was collapsing. Funny how family only mattered when they needed a bailout. "I don't think there's anything to fix," I said evenly. He blinked, thrown off, his mouth opening then closing. Finally, he stammered, "We screwed up. We know. Your mom's eaten up with guilt. Jake, too. Nobody meant to hurt you. They thought it'd be fun. Hit the arcade first, surprise you after. It got out of hand." I raised an eyebrow. "You thought leaving me alone for 2 hours was a surprise?" His face fell, eyes darting away in shame. "We messed up bad," he said, voice breaking. "But you're punishing everyone." There it was again, like I was the one who started this. For a second, I considered slamming the door, but a sharper, colder idea hit me. "Fine," I said slowly. "You want to talk about fixing things? Okay." His eyes brightened, hopeful. "Start by saying it out loud," I said. "All of you, you use me." He recoiled. "Ethan, that's unfair." "No," I snapped. "Say the truth. No dodging, no spinning it to make me feel bad. Just the raw truth." He shifted uncomfortably, hands clenching in his pockets. I said nothing. I wasn't going to make it easy. After a long pause, he muttered, "We relied on you too much." I shook my head. "Not good enough. Say it plain." His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he'd leave. But then, swallowing hard, he forced out, "We used you, Ethan. We didn't value you." I nodded, stone-faced. "Good. That's step one." He looked drained but relieved. "So you'll help?" I gave a tight, bitter smile. "Oh no, I'm not helping. Step one was admitting the truth. Step two is living with it." Then I closed the door, slow and firm, right in his stunned face. No yelling, no dramatic farewell, just done. The second the lock clicked, a weight lifted off me, one I hadn't even known I was carrying. I pressed my forehead against the door, took a deep, unsteady breath, and stood there. For the first time in forever, I was free. But it wasn't over. Monday brought a problem they hadn't anticipated. My name wasn't just on the bills, it was tied to everything. That mortgage, I was the co-signer. Those loan companies, they had my contact information. Without me stepping in, without me deflecting notices or smoothing things over, it all hit them hard and fast. By Tuesday, my mom's electricity was cut off. By Wednesday, Jake's car was gone, towed away in front of the whole street. By Thursday, the bank started proceedings to reclaim the house. The grimly satisfying part? They'd leaned on me so long they didn't know how to fix the mess. They had no idea how to negotiate payment plans, request extensions, or seek aid. Those were things I'd quietly handled for years while they pretended life ran itself. I watched the chaos from a distance, with Sarah giving me quiet updates over the phone, and felt nothing. No guilt, no second guessing, just a steady sense of justice. They had choices. They could have treated me like family, not a fix-it button. They made their calls, and now they faced the consequences. On Friday night, I got a final voicemail from Jake. His voice was hoarse, frantic. "Ethan, man, please, they're saying we could lose the house. Mom's not okay. Dad's drinking again. Everything's collapsing. You've made your point, all right? We're sorry. Just call me back. I'll do anything." It was almost funny how fast they bluey turned from mocking my drama to begging for mercy. But it didn't matter. I'd made my peace with them, with the situation. They chose to erase me on a night that meant everything to me. Now they'd learn what it felt like to be erased. As for me, I had a new path to forge. A life where my worth wasn't tied to what I gave away. Where my birthday didn't come with unspoken expectations. Where family wasn't a word weaponized to pull me back in. That night, as the first real snow of winter drifted down, I sat by the window with a mug of tea, watching the flakes fall. The world was blanketed in white, and for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel heavy. It felt like freedom. The weeks after Jake's voicemail were tense. Part of me braced for them to show up at my door or my workplace, making a scene, tossing guilt around just long enough to get their way. But they didn't come. Instead, a heavy silence settled in, the kind that feels like it's waiting to shatter. Sarah fed me updates in fragments, just enough to paint the picture. Without me holding things together, the house slipped away fast. A foreclosure notice was taped to their door, bold and unmissable. Neighbors started gossiping. Church friends stopped calling. Even the cousins who used to cheer my parents' talk of family unity began pulling away as the cracks showed. Mom scraped together some cash from relatives to get the power back on, but it was a bandage on a broken leg. She was selling off furniture online to keep the heat running. Dad tried picking up extra work, but it was too late. His steady reputation was crumbling. Once word of the foreclosure spread, no one wanted to hire a guy who couldn't manage his own home. His hours were cut further. Jake fell apart. Without his car, he lost his gig jobs. He couch surfed for a bit, then moved back into the crumbling house with our parents. They were all stuck, sinking together. It would have been easy to pity them, but I couldn't. Not with the image seared into my mind of that empty restaurant table, the untouched food, the gifts I'd chosen with care for people who decided I was nothing. I went back to therapy, a new therapist this time, one who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. She helped me see the patterns clearly, the years of subtle pressure, the unspoken rules I'd followed out of fear of being cast out. She showed me that stepping away wasn't selfish, it was self-preservation. Slowly, I started rebuilding. I left the cramped apartment where I'd spent countless nights waiting for their crisis calls. I found a new place on the city's outskirts, a modest condo with wide windows overlooking a park. I started saying no explanations, no guilt, no to work shifts I didn't want, no to friends who only reached out when they needed something, no to the old habits that kept me small. My next birthday came and went quietly. No big party, no elaborate dinner. I spent it hiking through the forest with Sarah, who'd stood by me without asking for anything, and a few new friends from a local music club. At a clearing with a view of trees glowing amber in the fading sun, Sarah handed me a small gift, a leather-bound journal. Inside, she'd written, "You deserved more. You still do. Here's to crafting your own path now." I laughed. I teared up a bit, but not the kind of tears that leave you hollow. They felt like a cleansing, like rain after a long drought. The final break from my old life came 6 months after that awful birthday. I was at work when my phone pinged with an email from the mortgage company. I almost didn't open it. I'd trained myself to stop caring, but curiosity tugged, and I clicked. The house had been sold at auction. A young family bought it, planning to demolish it and start anew. My parents had moved to a cheap rental on the edge of town. No porch swing, no backyard barbecues, no big family gatherings. Just a 2-bedroom with creaky floors and broken blinds. Jake, from what I heard, was working overnight shifts at a convenience store, barely getting by. No car, no credit, no fallback. I should have felt smug, maybe even vindicated, but I didn't. Their collapse wasn't a trophy to hang on my wall. It was a reminder of the cost of letting others treat you like you're disposable, and a quiet vow to myself, never again. A year after it all fell apart, I got one last email from my mom. No subject line, just a few sparse words. We know we wounded you. We're sorry. We lost everything, and we lost you. If you ever want to talk, we're here. No pressure, no games, just us. It should have felt like closure, but it didn't. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, not to hurt them. I didn't reply because that story was over. Some things, once broken, don't fit back together. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. And sometimes, moving forward means accepting that the apology you needed years ago, the love you always craved, might never come the way you hoped. And that's okay. You keep going. You find new dreams. You build a new kind of family, not the one you're born into, but the one you choose. You find places where you're valued for who you are, not what you provide. You celebrate birthdays that are simple but real. You discover peace, the kind that doesn't demand pieces of you to keep it. Today, when I think of that empty restaurant table, it doesn't sting like it used to. It feels like a pivot point, the moment I sat alone but chose myself for the first time. And honestly, that's worth celebrating, not just on my birthday, but every single day. So what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened, or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.